For 5 years, only 2 people on the entire planet could crack the protection guarding every major PC game. 2 people, against an industry worth billions. Then in December 2025, a collective released a single proof of concept. Within 3 months, AAA games were being cracked on the day they launched. But to run it, you have to disable every security layer your computer has. All of them. To understand how we got here, we need to go back to 2014. Denuvo Software Solutions started as a management buyout. The team came from Digital Works, a Sony subsidiary that built Securom, the PC game copy protection of the 2000s. Same engineers, same expertise, but with a new name. FIFA 15 was the first game to use their anti-tamper technology, and the way it worked was different from anything before it. Think of it like a bouncer who checks your ID every time you walk through a door. When you launch a Denuvo game, the software looks at your specific hardware, your CPU, your motherboard, your GPU, and sends that fingerprint to Denuvo's servers. The server checks it against what it has on file. If anything looks off, the game crashes. But Denuvo went further than a simple check. Every time you launched the game, the verification changed slightly. The questions were different, the answers were different. It wasn't just a lock, it was a lock that changed shape every time you looked at it. In December 2014, Chinese Juarez group 3DM claimed the first breach. They cracked Dragon Age Inquisition about 2 weeks after release. That was unusually long for the era, when most games fell within hours. But the real statement came in January 2016. 3DM's founder, known as Bird's sister, publicly gave up on cracking Just Cause 3. She declared Denuvo too difficult and walked away. That was the peak, the moment when Denuvo looked genuinely uncrackable. However, that reputation was about to face its first real test. 7 months after Bird's sister quit, a Bulgarian cracker named VOKSI found a way through. He bypassed Denuvo in Doom, then Scene Group CPY, known as Conspire 4CY, fully cracked Rise of the Tomb Raider, Inside and Doom by emulating Denuvo's version 3 anti-tamper layer. The wall had a crack, and once people knew it could be done, more followed. By October 2017, the timeline had collapsed completely. South Park, The Fractured But Whole, Middle-earth, Shadow of War, Total War, Warhammer 2, and FIFA 18 were all cracked on their release dates. Denuvo's owners responded, but not with code. In January 2018, digital security company Irdito acquired Denuvo and its 45 employees for an undisclosed sum. Irdito had deeper pockets and a more aggressive legal stance. 6 months later, in July 2018, Bulgarian law enforcement raided VOKSI's home after Irdito filed a complaint. His website, Revolt, was redirected to the Bulgarian Ministry of the Interior. The message was clear. This wasn't just a technical problem anymore. There were legal consequences, and that's when the scene went quiet, almost completely. From 2020 to 2025, only 2 people on the planet were actively cracking Denuvo-protected games. 2. The first was Empress. She rose to prominence, cracking Red Dead Redemption 2 and Hogwarts Legacy. She demanded cryptocurrency donations for her work. In 2021, she claimed to have been arrested. The community was skeptical, and no law enforcement ever confirmed it. She kept going. The second was Voices 38, working quietly, fewer headlines, same impossible task. Think about that for a second. The entire piracy scene for AAA PC games globally rested on 2 people. If they stopped, nobody else was stepping up. And in late 2025, Empress did stop. She published a statement titled "End of an Era," citing health issues from extreme sleep deprivation. The scene was dead. That's what everyone thought. But 4,000 kilometers away, a collective had been working on something nobody expected. In December 2025, the MKDev Collective released a proof-of-concept hypervisor bypass for Persona 5 Royal. They published documentation alongside it. This wasn't a traditional crack. Previous crackers had tried to pick the lock. They reverse-engineered Denuvo's encryption, studied how it worked, and tried to break it from the inside. MKDev didn't do any of that. They went underneath it. Here's how to think about it. Your computer runs in layers, like floors of a building. Your games and apps live on the top floor. The Windows operating system runs 1 floor below, controlling everything above it. Normally, nothing runs below Windows. That's the basement, and it's supposed to be empty. What MKDev did was move into that basement. They installed a program that runs underneath Windows itself, at a level called Ring -1. From down there, you can see everything, you can control everything, and you can lie to everything above you. So when Denuvo asks your computer, "What hardware are you running? Show me your fingerprint," The answer doesn't come from your actual hardware anymore. It comes from this program sitting in the basement, and it tells Denuvo exactly what Denuvo wants to hear. The game thinks you're verified, the check passes, the lock opens. Different versions exist for different processors, one for AMD chips, one for Intel. The technique was clever, but what it demanded from your machine was terrifying. Here's the catch. That basement? Windows doesn't leave it unguarded. Your computer has multiple security systems designed specifically to stop anything from running down there. Secure Boot checks what loads when your PC starts up. Virtualization-based security keeps critical processes isolated. Driver signature enforcement makes sure only verified, signed software can load at that level. To run this bypass, you have to turn all of them off. Every single one. That is every protection Windows has against the worst kinds of malware. Gone. You're essentially telling your computer, let anything run at any level without checking who made it. And you're trusting that the person who built this crack didn't slip something else into the package. And this is where it stops being theoretical. A malware campaign called RenEngine has infected over 400,000 computers globally through fake game cracks. That's 5,000 new infections every single day. A separate campaign called Krakonosh embedded cryptocurrency miners inside pirated games and hit another 200,000 systems. Your PC is mining crypto for someone else, while you think you're just playing a free game. The Hypervisor bypass asks you to turn off the exact protections that would catch this kind of software. That's not a coincidence. That's a target. FitGirl, one of the most well-known repackers in the scene, initially refused to touch Hypervisor-based cracks. Her words, "You won't see any HV cracks repacks from me until you won't need to actually disable security features." But the bypass kept working, and the games kept falling. Voices 38 cracked, Doom, The Dark Ages, the first 2025 Denuvo game to fall. About a month later, he cracked Resident Evil, Requiem in 40 days. First 2026 game cracked. Then Crimson Desert was bypassed via Hypervisor on its release day, Day 0, the thing Denuvo was built to prevent, and the performance comparisons were brutal. The cracked version of Resident Evil, Requiem, ran roughly 5% faster, used 1.5 to 2 GB less VRAM, and about 1 GB less system RAM than the retail version with Denuvo intact. Ghostwire, Tokyo takes 200 seconds to boot with Denuvo. Without it, 54 seconds, nearly 4 times slower, just to verify you own the game. The product designed to protect the game was actively making it worse for the people who paid for it. Eardata responded officially. Daniel Butchek, their head of communications, stated, "We're already working on updated security versions for games impacted by hypervisor bypasses. For players, performance will not be compromised by these strengthened security measures." He added one important detail. Their fix would not involve Denuvo going into that same basement level. They weren't planning to fight the crackers by going deeper underground. They were going to reinforce the floors above. FitGirl eventually shifted when a second-generation hypervisor tool reduced the security risk. She began tagging releases with a hypervisor label so users knew what they were getting into. A peer-reviewed study by William Volkmann at UNC, published in Entertainment Computing in 2024, examined 86 Denuvo games from 2014 to 2022. The findings were clear. Denuvo protects total revenue by a mean of 15% and a median of 20%. When cracked quickly, publishers lose roughly 20% of revenue. But when Denuvo survives 12 weeks or longer, piracy causes zero mean revenue loss. 12 weeks, that's the window. After that, the protection offers nothing, and the cost of that window isn't cheap. Denuvo charges publishers $25,000 per month plus 50 cents per activation. A leaked contract showed Crytek paid €140,000 for 12 months of Denuvo on Crysis Remastered, with an additional €60,000 if the game exceeded 500,000 activations in 30 days. As of March 2026, roughly 52 Denuvo protected games remain uncracked. Multiple hackers are now circling from different angles. Voices 38 doing proper cracks that remove the protection entirely. Others building new versions of the hypervisor bypass for both AMD and Intel processors. Contributors feeding research back into the ecosystem. And in the background, Ubisoft's shutdown of the crew in March 2024 hangs over all of it. A game rendered completely unplayable, despite having single-player content, because the always-online protection required servers that no longer exist. It sparked the Stop Killing Games campaign and a class action lawsuit. That's the tension that won't resolve. DRM protects revenue for 12 weeks and then does nothing. Cracks give access but demand you hand over your system's deepest defenses. And when the servers go dark, neither side can help you play the game you paid for. The war between DRM and the scene has been running for over a decade, but there's a deeper story behind who builds these protections and why they keep failing.